Hi everyone, my name is Zhenia Melnyk, and here we have Nick and we have Chaz. They're both from America. Nick was in the Marine Corps and Chaz was Navy. We have the ongoing summer campaign, which is called Ukrainian counteroffensive, and there was a lot of talk that it's moving slowly and not meeting someone's expectations. So let's maybe talk a bit about that. Why do you think it's moving at that pace, and what do we need to make it faster?
This is my favorite subject to talk about right now. I love this. Anybody who thinks this offense is not moving fast enough is more than welcome to come out with me on any of my patrols, and they will very quickly understand warfare isn't fought at a politician's pace. Ultimately, the enemy gets a say in it. So specifically, why everybody is talking about it's moving slow. We gave you all this awesome equipment, and you did. We appreciate it. It's being used very well. But there's two factors predominantly of why we're not seeing the huge gains of territory like we did last year. And that's not to say that this offensive is not being successful, because it is. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, like I said, the enemy gets a say. Over this winter, while we were training up and preparing for this attack, the enemy was also preparing for the attack. Last year we saw these huge gains of territory, and that's because basically our enemy hadn't had time to establish a defense in depth, which they now have. They had about 6 months while we were training to attack. They were preparing their defenses. So the enemy now has what's known as a defense in depth. They have multiple layers that we have to break through each time. So it's not like we get past the first one and now we can, drive for 300 kilometers. There's now another layer that we have to defeat, and the whole process starts over and over again. And again, that's not to say that we're not being successful, but it's going to be a slower pace than we saw before. And the second biggest factor of why it's not moving as fast as all the fucking pundits want it to is attacks and assaults are very complex operations, especially when we're talking at the theater level, right? There are generals, colonels, whatever, that are coordinating multiple units across hundreds of kilometers of front lines in order to do these attacks that are very complex. And it's difficult work. It comes down to you're jumping in a trench with other people and fighting for your life, right? It's a gunfight in a phone booth. It's difficult, and it's complex. There's a lot of moving parts. You have to coordinate supporting fires, multiple levels of supporting fires. You have to coordinate different maneuver elements. You have to coordinate armor, cassevacs, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's not going to be that giant breakthroughs we saw last year, but that doesn't mean it's not a success. I think another factor is everybody throws around Western standard, NATO standards, and Western this and Western that. And the West has never fought a war like this with the technology that's currently available. Yep. My background is a Marine infantryman. Yes, we did. We trained for conventional war against Russia specifically. We didn't call them Russia, but that's what all the tactics were based off of, right? Any Marine will know what range 400 is. It's based off of Russian trenches. Since the start of this war, Russia has updated how they're defending and stuff like that, right? We saw the giant trench systems outside of Bakhmut and different areas.
So there's a lot of people who don't understand warfare, right? They go about this whole money thing. It's like, oh, you're getting Abrams, and you have Leopard tanks and all this great equipment. It's phenomenal equipment, but that doesn't make them, they're not magical. They're not a wonder weapon. Yeah. Like you said, if you have 6 months to plant mines, there's not a tank in the world that is anti-mine. It's going to rip off a track. It's going to destroy it. The crews will have a much higher survivability rate, but that piece of machinery is still going to be destroyed. And it's, to think we're just going to take 100 Leopards and just push all the way down to Crimea is a little absurd if you don't understand what's going on, on this ground level, and understanding how defense in depth that they have built up. It takes a long, long time to clear a minefield, especially to put an armored column of tanks through. That's why, everyone is, and again, a lot of these people are Westerners, and they're very used to seeing the American might, in Iraq, where we could cruise through with 1,000 tanks because we also had air superiority. We had every technological advantage. We had manpower advantage. We had the upper hand on every single thing. And here we don't have that. This is an asymmetric war. And by asymmetric war, both teams have essentially the same thing, So
I think what he's trying to say is like there isn't a magical American answer that we can just apply to this, right? I think the Ukraine is doing a really good job of taking this technology from the West and applying it to the situation here. And anybody who says this assault is too slow is an idiot. I've been on the ground. I've been on the front lines. I will spend the rest of this week on the front lines, literally. It's going at a sustainable pace, from being able to maintain supply lines to keeping constant pressure on the enemy.
Keeping troops alive.
I think that's a large part of it too, is we're not willing to do human wave assaults and stuff like that. I think they're doing a really good job of adapting to the situation here, because this is a war that's never been fought. It's a mixture of World War I and everything in between, right? So it's very difficult coming from that traditional Western training to apply it here. And every day I learn something new. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is there isn't a magical Western answer to apply to this.